I think that's like the best thing about non-monogamous relationships is you talk about shit that monogamous people never talk about. They never have to, you know? And so that for us is like, we talk about that shit and that's what's going to make our marriage last. And the fact that we're like on this adventure together.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from across the entire spectrum of non-monogamy to hear their fascinating stories. We strive to bring guests on the show who have a healthy approach to non-monogamy. However, it's important to remember that everyone does it a little bit differently, and the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we produce this show for entertainment purposes only. Please be aware that we aren't doctors or therapists. Consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy! Here we go. Take 7.
Welcome to episode 113. We're Finn and Emma, and today we are talking with Hazel and James. They're an amazing couple who have had a diverse array of experiences in a fairly short amount of time.
Yeah, they've covered a lot of ground. They've done a lot of really awesome things, and they kind of started off in a little bit of a unique way in terms of us not really having guests that have gotten into it this way. So we're excited to share the story, and we just wanted to say that about the first minute or so, it's a little choppy, and that's just Emma and I didn't do the best job leading them into the questions, and they were a little nervous, but it starts flowing right about the 1 or 1.5 minutes, and everything is groovy.
We also didn't talk or ask all of our normal questions because they just ran with their story and it's incredible. So we wanted to let them do that without interrupting them too much.
Yeah, we get pretty much all of the questions that answered that we usually ask without having to ask them, which is fun.
Yeah.
It's easy for us.
So we're excited to put this out there.
Yeah. So thank you, Hazel and James. We're excited to share your story. And what else, Emma? It's not National Condom Month anymore.
Yeah. A few quick announcements. National Condom Month is over,
Wah, wah.
but you still get 20% off at My One Condoms using the offer code NNM Podcast. And that is good until March 15th.
Awesome. Check it out. We use them all the time and we love them. And people have been writing us, telling us they've been cashing in on this and are loving it as well. The other thing we wanted to talk about, Patreon, really quick. We have made a couple of small updates, but really for anybody who's new or hasn't heard this before, our Patreon group is really about building an awesome community around the show. So every month we do monthly live video Q&As. You don't have to show your video, but we show ours. Mm-hmm. And everybody calls in, we answer questions. We've done 8 of them so far. And every month the numbers grow. We do one for the East Coast, one for the West Coast. And it's been awesome. People are really getting a lot out of it, making friends, building connections, and it's super fun.
It is. Yeah, we love those Q&As. And then the other piece we're doing is a group chat. And we just recently transitioned this chat from Discord to MeWe, and it's a lot more user-friendly.
Yeah, nobody could really figure out Discord, and it was kind of crickets in there most days, which wasn't really the greatest for building community.
No, that wasn't our goal.
So we switched over to MeWe. It's definitely better. People are a lot more interactive. And just in the last couple of days, I think we've gotten way more conversations going than we did in the last 8 months. So anyway, we just wanted to put it back out there. If you're interested in being a part of this, we would love to have you. It's really cheap. It's either $2 or $5 a month, and you can get access to these awesome benefits and help us build a great community around the show. And we'd love to have you in there, and we hope to see you there.
And before we go talk to Hazel and James, just want to do a quick shout out to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. There you can find the links to Patreon. You can find show notes for all of our guests, including a lot of the pictures and all of the resources, and contact us page. Write us an email or send us a voicemail. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we love hearing from everybody, and we hope you enjoyed this interview with Hazel and James. Let's get to it.
Let's go.
Welcome to the show, Hazel and James.
And episode 113, by the way.
113.
I have to say that they emailed us and requested, if possible, to be that number. So we made it happen, which
and we've been waiting 78 episodes
Right.
Not really.
Thanks for having us. We're excited.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. We're super excited. So we know a little tiny bit of your background, but do you mind for anybody else, maybe just an intro to who are Hazel and James?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm Hazel. I'm 38 and I live in the Midwest and have 3 kids and 3 dogs. Yeah. Okay, you go.
I'm James. I am 31 and I also live in the Midwest.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, we have 3 kids and the 3 dogs and pretty busy lives.
Yeah.
Been together for 11 years and married for just over 9.
Wow. Awesome. Cool. Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And maybe then I assume there's some non-monogamous component to the story, or else you're on the wrong show.
just a little bit.
Just a little.
So, I don't know. I always kind of knew that I was different. Like, even when I was with boyfriends and girlfriends, I didn't. When I was with people in the past, like, I always saw myself feeling connected with other people, always. And so I've kind of always had that feeling. But together, we just started off our relationship more alternative, I guess. Yeah. So it's kind of been, I don't know, a transition over the last really 9 years is when we started kind of stepping into more of an alternative lifestyle.
When we first got together, I knew that we weren't going to be on a monogamous, the normal path.
I mean, well, I'll just be honest. I was married. So I was married.
That's not the tea I was trying to spill.
That's not the tea you're trying to spill. Okay. Well, I'm just gonna be honest. I was married and it wasn't a great marriage, and honest, it was ending anyway, but, we were unethical, and it's something that we definitely had to work a lot through. It took quite a few years to get to a point where we didn't feel the guilt from doing it that way, being unethical. So, yeah. So we literally started out non-monogamous.
Right. But from sort of the flip side of the coin, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so when you say the guilt being that your relationship started off on an unethical foot, and then kind of working through what that was going to mean for the two of you and how you were going to come around with that.
Right, exactly. So just being a human and feeling guilty for being an asshole to my ex, and doing that, so.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of that, and it still does come up sometimes for me, even, 11 years later. So 11 years later. So, it's just.
And then there's the whole bi piece.
Yeah. And then there's that piece too. So
please expand.
Yes. So I'm bisexual. And that's something I have known since, first grade. I can remember being attracted to girls and wanting to hold hands or kiss, whatever, a girl, and being but I can't, I was so mad at God for creating me this way and all this stuff when I was a kid, and so I grew up with the mentality that I had to find a guy. And so I found my ex-husband very young. So we were high school sweethearts, and kind of just in a way, I had some trauma in my life. And so he kind of had saved me, really, he was there for me, and it was a really meaningful relationship at the time. He saved me from a lot. But once I was on the other side of the trauma that happened, I realized I shaped myself to be who I thought so that he would love me. And that's not who I was. I wasn't really embracing my true self. He's oh, it's just a phase, you being attracted to women. I'm no, I really need this in my life, and he just didn't understand. And I just was in a point where I'm I can't be in a marriage that doesn't allow me to really be me.
Of course.
So at that point, when we got together and it became more than just, hooking up, it was known, well, she wants to be able to experience relationships with women as well as me. So starting off, we were not, well, we're going to get married. It's only going to be us. We're together. And sometimes, she's with other people. Or,
well, at the time it was
just women.
Just women at the time. So
that was, for me, growing up, in a very religious, conservative household. You don't do anything. You find this one magic person that you're supposed to plan the rest of your life with. It just didn't make sense. And then, we met, and
I like how you're like dancing around it. He's really good at it. Like, it was a really good hookup. I'm just going to say, like, meeting. It was really good. It was a really good meeting. Yes.
So, so part of, if I wanted to be with her, part of that was, I had to be okay with, the other parts of her needs getting met that I couldn't, obviously meet. So that's kind of where it started.
Right. Yeah. Well, and had you ever considered it before meeting Hazel that this might be something you're interested in? I mean, you kind of talked about, your upbringing was you find the one perfect person, but it sounds like maybe that wasn't the way that you felt the whole time.
I was always a black sheep. I mean, when I was a little kid, I told my parents that I wanted, a nose ring and a purple mohawk. And they were like, no.
I was going to say, how did they handle that situation?
You got a pink mohawk.
I had all the colors in high school. And
Hey, that's pretty good.
And, but that came with a lot of, family threats of, ripping it out, or, the mohawk's a good handle to hold. But
yeah.
So I already didn't fit in. So at that point, I don't really need to fit into social norms.
Right.
Because they're just arbitrary rules from dead people.
Right. Well,
yeah. Basically.
Society.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't a big deal then that you might have other people in and out of the relationship at certain times. It really didn't seem like that was a big issue.
It wasn't a big issue, but then, right down to it, it's like I still have those feelings of, whoa, what about me?
Right.
And, we had to tackle, a lot of jealousy issues at the beginning. And then we ended up finding, later, maybe it's not jealousy is a big, ugly monster. Maybe it's, this is the feeling that I'm going through. And I'm not saying that you're wrong. What you did isn't wrong. This is just how I'm reacting to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. And then you can, from there, move forward.
Yeah.
Right.
So what were some of those early, and you mentioned jealousy, but what were some of those early on experiences and feelings that you had to work through?
Or even like, what did it look like when you first started trying to explore this? Maybe even before you get to that.
So it was, I was seeing another woman. I was seeing a woman who was also married,
but the husbands didn't at the time.
No. It was just me and her. Are you talking about when I first hooked up with her?
That's what you were talking about.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I first hooked up with her. Wow. I forgot about that, actually. So I originally hooked up with her when I was married to my ex, and that's where just more of that unethical stuff was coming up. And so again, he, James knew that this was who I am. And so he was supportive of me, re-exploring that. However, I think because it was kind of connected with some old, unethical situations, that it still just felt off. Even I think for both of us, really.
Yeah.
And she, after going through that on our end and working through a lot of the
work.
doing all the work, working through all the guilt, working through all the stuff, we realized that we didn't want to be unethical anymore, but she was, she's still not telling her husband. So I just started feeling like so some of the feelings that were coming up, I think for you were really like some of it was jealousy, I think, as far as like an emotional attachment that I was having with her. And we were still really new in our actual relationship, not just like.
And I was kind of young.
Yeah, he was barely 21. Yeah. So like I was his second real relationship, and I mean, he was my second real, relationship too, but I already been through being married and all of that. So it was, yeah.
Right. And so you had this sort of ongoing hookup situation with another woman. And it sounds like that didn't work out, right? It was sort of still unethical, at least halfway unethical. I don't know if that is a thing. I guess you default
unethical on her end.
You default to the lowest common ethical.
Yeah, right.
But so after that, I mean, what did it look like moving forward in terms of getting on the right track for the two of you? And then maybe to Emma's question, right, of like, what did that, like, those learning experiences look like?
There were times when it was, I didn't have the tools to communicate what was going on for me. So, they would hook up and I wanted to be fine with it. And I know we had, talked about it, and yeah, it's okay. But then there's still the emotional aspect for me where it wasn't feeling right for me, yet I didn't have the communication ability at that time to speak up and say, hold on.
Yeah.
And that just caused a lot of tension. Eventually
we had some rough times at the beginning, and yeah. I think we had to really make the conscious decision that we really wanted to make this work. And
so we kind of had to put the other stuff aside for a bit.
I mean, when you have as good a sex with him as I was having, like, I needed this to work. I'm going to make him blush.
It's all good.
There it is.
The video's not recorded.
Wow. So there's that part too.
No, but I mean, it did take a lot of effort. And I'll say I'm very involved with a personal growth seminar that I have now. I go back and I volunteer for it. And it's quite like immersive. Like you just go into the week. Yeah. And so it's really helped a lot with communication, and it really helped me. And James went through too. It's really helped us together. Honestly, I think that was a key piece, is doing those seminars.
It helped me get over, previous things, so I wasn't coming in already hurt.
Yeah.
Like I could come in with a clear head, a clear mind, and going, okay, this isn't my shit to hold on to.
Yeah. So meanwhile, like we decided to stop. Like we were just monogamous basically at that time. And that was for quite a few years. Mm-hmm. And instead we started kind of introducing BDSM.
Cool. Okay.
Which was totally freaking awesome.
Yes.
We had a lot of fun.
Just in your relationship, the two of you.
Just the two of us.
Just
yeah.
us.
And we so between, the personal growth seminar, working through all this like shit from our past that we were working through. And anyone who knows anything about BDSM, there's like huge connectiveness in that too. So like we are on like a power streak of just so much growth and connection between the two of us. Like it's insane. Like it was so strong.
So he said, let's open that up. You were interested in finding
a woman. Yeah. So after we had been 6-7 years ago,
sure.
Like after we had been doing BDSM for a while.
And you had been closed off, like the two of you, for a few years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. We decided to just cut and just really focus on us and grow us. And like I said, it was just like a really powerful couple of years. And then I came to him and said, okay, I think we're in a place where if you're okay with it or open to it, I'd really like to, I kind of feel like I'm missing this need. Like would you be open to re-exploring this? And can we do it in a different way that maybe you're included so that like it's totally new for us, but you want to have a threesome? And he was like, duh.
Why not?
So I just let her take over searching and finding. And
yeah, so we were on, I don't know, can I say a site?
Yeah,
Sure.
anything you want.
Okay, yeah. So we were on FetLife and because of BDSM. And so we ended up I found her on there. So she was also into some BDSM, but yeah, so I found her on there and we talked for a couple of months just online back and forth. And then her and I met and then
I think you met a couple times.
Yep. And then we brought her over to the house and had a fun night.
And so, James, you hadn't met her until that night of the threesome?
I've talked with her a little bit online.
Okay.
Like a tiny bit. And then the three of us would message.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So you've been interacting with her.
Right.
Interacted,
Yeah.
but not like actually met in person.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there was pictures exchange, like stuff like
For
that.
sure. Yeah. Cool. So that went well, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like honestly, it was, I think for where we were at, it was like exactly what we needed. Like it was so perfect. And she even like not even 2 months in, like went to the personal growth seminar too. Like it was really cool. Like, and so we've been really open I've been pretty open in my close circles that, that I'm bisexual. Like I'm not really, since my divorce, I've been working my ass off to rebuild my integrity. And so I just have been really showing up authentically and transparently. Like, I'm like, you want to know something? I'm going to tell you because
What's the point of hiding?
Right. I'm not going to be that person again. And so anyway, so she went to the seminar and just like the three of us really had like we were getting a real closeness and we had a lot of fun, fun. And we dabbled a little bit with her too in some of the BDSM too. So that was kind of cool. There was a point though along the way where we started noticing like some flags.
There's some honesties in question.
Yeah. So
that's one of our biggest things. I mean, I will say something and I can't be worried about, I'm telling the truth. If it's going to hurt, I don't mean it to hurt, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she wasn't on that path. So she was just little lies.
They were stupid little lies. Like, I worked out today, but then later find out like she didn't, or, just like stupid stuff that really isn't that big of a deal. But when you start adding them all up and looking back, you're like, okay, but what is true about this person?
True colors.
Yeah. So she originally had lived like almost an hour and a half away from us. And so we would like basically just visit each other on the weekends. Then eventually she moved closer to us really for our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then ultimately she moved in with us.
Yeah.
So then it was more of a triad relationship in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And so we have 3 kids and she had 2.
Big family.
Yeah. But it was really awesome. Like you had 3 adults in the house, like taking care of household stuff, and you had like managing all the kids.
And the kids always had someone around to, almost like giant family stuff.
Yeah. And like, so they had a room just to start, like that they all shared, her and her 2 kids that they all shared together just at the beginning. So that, but I mean, she came and stayed in our room. Like our whole entire upstairs is basically our bedroom suite. So like the kids don't know what's up here. They're not allowed up here. This is mom and dad's zone. So, she would come up and stay like, but the kids didn't really, I don't think they didn't really question anything. We're really like huggy people. So like, even
it's just another friend.
Right. So it wasn't, she just was a friend that had sleepovers all the time. And then eventually, we were helping her out and she moved in with us and it wasn't weird. It seemed very natural to the kids. So.
Right.
And then that's when a lot of the honesty stuff kind of
came to a head. Yeah.
came to a head, and it was
About 2 months after she moved in, we were like, ooh, this was really not a good decision.
So how do you back that out?
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask.
We were backpedaling.
you
Like,
say, so we've noticed some things,
Yeah.
and we don't want to feel like we're confronting you or calling you out, but these are the things that you said, and this is what actually happened.
you know,
What's going on,
right.
and
And at first she continued to still lie about stuff like, oh, trying to change the story. And then ultimately she just owned it. And,
it was too little too late.
and yeah, I was just like, I cannot, we can't, you
And then
can't.
she pretty much found herself, the next place.
Yeah.
We didn't say, okay, you need to move out
No.
or anything. She said, well, I'm moving out. This is where I'm going.
It
Yeah.
was,
She
it
could
was really awkward in our house for a while.
So she could kind of tell that things weren't what they used to be, and it's time to kind of move on.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild, right? It escalated from kind of a hookup thing to full on moving in and living together for a little while. And that's a wild,
Yeah.
that's a wild ride. So.
And that was your step back into non-monogamy.
Right. Right. I mean, this is over 2.5 years.
We don't
keep in
fuck
mind.
around.
Right.
We want to do something, we're all in.
Yeah, we're all in. But yeah, I mean, it's not like it was 6 months. We were together for about 2.5 years total. So, I mean, she didn't move in until the last, it was 4 to 6 months actually, I think. But anyway, yeah.
Right.
So it was the last.
Time doesn't matter.
Yeah, he's like, oh. I'm so easygoing. Yeah. So she ended up finding somebody, and it was fine. She's good.
Best of luck.
Right.
So it sounds like it was easy, but it was actually a really, really hard breakup. I really, really took it hard. And I went through about a year of, I would say I was kind of having some depression.
We were both, at that point, we're just pretty much done lifestyle.
Yep.
All around.
We were like, we can't do this. I need to shut that. We didn't do any BDSM. We completely just shut everything out. I really needed some space to heal because I wanted it to work so bad. I wanted it to work so badly. It was so perfect at the beginning, and it was the perfect picture. And we were going to have 3 rocking chairs on the front porch, all these things. And, it just
didn't
totally went up in flames. And it was it was really hard. So
we just kind of took a break, focused back in on, important things. And of course, we've had some job changes and,
life happens.
yeah.
We have, between 15 to 7.
Yeah.
age
So
range of the kids.
our oldest is 15 and youngest is 7.
So it's, always moving and changing. And
so we just took a break. And then it's always me. This past spring, I was like, so I have this friend.
So wait, this is fairly recent, within less than a year ago then?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this would have been, it was about April.
Yeah.
Something like that. So I said, so I have this friend, Summer, who since last fall, I've been longer than last fall, but really been noticing that I've been kind of having some feels for her. So she is cute. And so I asked James if he would be fine with me kind of connecting with her and seeing.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, yep.
I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Yes.
He's like, go right ahead. So I had a conversation with her and just told her, just put it out there. Actually, I think she texted me and invited me out on a date first. But either way, we're friends, so it's not uncommon. So we got together and I was like, okay, bomb drop. Here's the thing. I've been totally into you. Do you want to try this thing and just see where it goes? And she's like, same. Yes, let's give it a shot.
And so this was just mostly the two of you at this point. It wasn't going to be a tryout.
Right. So it was back to just the two of us.
She's married, and it wouldn't have worked out with me in the picture.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. And, but her husband knew, like, we were very adamant. And so she had conversations with him, and
I had conversations with him.
yes, in a fishing boat out on the lake.
Fishing.
Like you do.
Like, right. Yeah. So we went on a couple of dates, like I was nervous, like just kind of starting over again. So it was like some like hand holding or, just like little cutesy stuff like that. And then I don't know, one night I just came home with her and we had kind of sort of talked about the possibility that it might happen, or might take things to a next level. And he was fine with it. But, well, you can talk about the how your feelings were afterward. But,
well, all of a sudden I knew they were going out, and then I get the text, "Hey, we're coming back." Like ... nudge, nudge. Okay, go ahead. I'm just gonna
hang out
because I had nothing better to do.
Good.
So I was just
a terrible idea.
hanging out in the living room, and they're upstairs getting it on.
It was not. I mean, we talked about it, and like we were both like, it was. We agreed that it was okay, but it was just it was stupid. But anyway, and it was. I mean, it was okay. Like we had fun. It just wasn't what I was like building up, in my mind that it would be. And so then we kind of had like this weird afterward. We're like, okay, we don't want this to be weird. We're supposed to be really good friends.
But it's a little bit weird.
But now it's about to get really fucking weird. So it was
there was a lot of tension when they came back downstairs.
Yeah. Oh, downstairs. Yeah. And then just after like, even after that, like, it was just the next couple of weeks were a little funky, but we ended up getting together, the four of us. So Summer, her husband, and the two of us, and just talking about, like, just brought it all out in the open. Like, here's what we've got going on. And because he was upset too, like her husband was upset too. Like there was just a lot of, so we had a really, really great, just open conversation about it. And then afterward, Summer and I talked on a more intimate level. And I just told her that I didn't feel like we had the connection that I was like really hoping that we would have. And she kind of felt the same way. And I was like, I don't want to lose like our friendship. And so she's like, yeah, I'm good. So we're actually great. Like we're great. And, there might be a time in the future where we might be able to like have a little fun, but it's
funny when you two get drunk.
Yeah.
Because you both get really flirty with each other.
It doesn't happen often because I don't drink much, but when
I just go, because you guys aren't going to do anything. Right. You're just going to flirt with each other. So I can enjoy that too. So after that, Hazel put out on Facebook, basically just, she works in a place and there's a nice coffee shop nearby. So if anyone wants to go grab a cup of coffee.
Because I love coffee.
Loves coffee and coffee dates. And this gentleman, Jay, that we know, kind of know through the lifestyle and the BDSM stuff, he works nearby. He's like, sure, I'd love to, go out to coffee. So they go out to coffee and they start talking.
Yeah.
And Jay and his wife are really into the swinging scene.
Yeah. And they're open. And they're really, they're wonderful people.
And
totally.
The swinging scene had been, up to this point, not something that you two had really explored at.
We had never really considered that aspect. I mean, we've never really, in the beginning, we never knew there was an ethical non-monogamy, side. So when we start getting into it, and then, I don't know, probably around, summer, it was kind of like, there's this thing, ethical non-monogamy.
I'm like, that's us.
And I'm just like, all of a sudden it just like clicked.
Yeah.
And we've done the poly thing. And it's like, well, why don't we try the swinging thing on?
Maybe that'll fit.
Maybe that'll,
let's try that on for
it'll
size.
Be fun. Right? So she ends up, having coffee with this gentleman. And then all of a sudden, like, it's messages and, so why don't we go to their house? They're invited us over to their house. Okay.
So they invited us to their house. And the first time it was like, we're just going to have whiskey and appetizers. And we're like, okay. Like, we're like, yeah, okay. In
our minds,
we're having whiskey and appetizers.
Friends, going to hang out with friends.
Like, I didn't really think that he was.
Oh, he was.
I didn't think he was into me. I legit thought we were just,
drinking
friends.
Whiskey and eating appetizers.
Yeah, like, no big deal, right?
So we had a great night.
And then we had a lot of like kinky conversation, obviously, all being part of the BDSM lifestyle. Like, there was a lot of kinky conversation. There was a lot of whiskey. I was completely sober though, because I was the driver, and I don't
like whiskey.
And I don't like whiskey, and I don't really drink a lot. So, and I really don't mind being the sober one. Like, it's totally fine with me. So I can have a good time regardless. So I was like, drink up, babe. So then when we leave, after all of the like kinky conversation, I was like, so would you do her?
Yeah.
He was like, yeah.
Yeah. So we had made plans maybe a week or two later to, hang out again. And they said, oh, and we'll make sure, we have a hot tub ready. And
I'm like, hot tub? I'm like, okay,
that'll be.
I'm like, do we wear our swimsuits? I'm
no,
like, James,
you don't wear the swimsuits because it clogs the filters.
Right, yeah, there's always an excuse why.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The dyes are bad for the water and the pH balance.
Right.
Tide is not good for the chlorine salt mixture.
Yeah. So we went over, had a few whiskeys again. I partaked a little in my own, and we sat in their hot tub naked.
And,
she turned and sat on his lap. Like, it was like he made the first move.
She made the first move.
No, you made the first move James made the first move because he sat, like, I got in first. They had me get in first. And then he sat where? Across from me. That was like legit an open invitation, right?
It was.
So V sat next to him and Jay sat next to me. And all of a sudden, Jay and I are talking, and I look over, and she's sitting on his lap, like, facing him. And I'm like, okay, this is happening then. So I turned and looked, and yeah. So, but they don't, do the things in the hot tub.
Nope.
So apparently
also
that's
a good plan.
Yeah,
right?
That's a good move.
Because,
Yeah. Well, so I guess I've a lot of questions. So first of all, right, you had never thought about really, or maybe you had, but you hadn't really talked about exploring this where Hazel would go and meet another man, right? This was always another woman. So that was a new piece. And then also, like, had you two talked up a lot of the potential for that evening? Like, what maybe your boundaries and guidelines and rules for that night? Or was it just like, we'll get in the hot tub and
because
it
sounds like this couple was pretty, like,
experienced.
But it sounds like they were guided you a little bit too.
Yeah, they did. We were
open to it.
Yeah.
We had talked about it and stuff. And even like on the ride there, it clicked with us that
this could happen. So
this is the second meeting. We know what they're into. They're definitely attracted to us. We're attracted to them. And then, we had the conversation of, well, what's the boundary?
Well, and we had already, just to quickly rewind, we already had a lot of boundaries set up. I hate boundaries, but we had a lot of agreements in place around, just even being in the triad. So it was like, we already had a lot of that set up.
Yeah.
So
it's only slightly different.
It is slightly different, but the rules that applied to him with her just translated over to me, that was the thought at least. And then that was our initial thought. But then as we're sitting in the car, we're like, no, this might actually happen.
Yeah.
And we're like, so if
We did the, the safety talk and the, I said, if this isn't going good for you or something comes up, let me know, because I'll call it.
Yeah.
If it's not going good for Hazel,
So yeah, I feel like we already had, and we talked about like, okay, same room, like we're not going to be in separate rooms. Like this is all stuff that as we started really considering the swinging lifestyle, we did have a lot of conversation about what feelings might come up, or, if I have wiggles come up, or if he has, things come up. So we had already had conversations, just not necessarily directly related to a realistic, it was all hypothetical before.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, were there concerns, I guess, James, on your end or on either of your end about, what could happen? Were there any worries or anything going into this, or was it just excitement?
Of course, there's the, I've never done this before, performance anxiety side, which is a bitch.
You can do it.
Just stay out of your head. You can do it.
It's really easy to get into your head.
Yeah.
And other than Hazel, I hadn't slept with anyone else and done the deeds in a long time.
Yeah, you didn't have sex with anybody else.
I would play.
Right. Okay. So that was one of the rules then that you were kind of alluding to, was that you had not had intercourse with somebody else, including the person, for 2.5 years. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So I think there was also some obviously it's a lot of excitement about, oh my God, it was such a turn on, thinking about him pleasing. I know how well he does it. And so I was thinking, oh my God, he's going to be, stop. He's going to be, he's getting so embarrassed.
I love it.
Anyway, so I feel like I take a little more work. I don't know, not all the time.
You're not quick.
I'm not always quick. And and I know that's not necessarily about that piece, but sometimes
it's good. It's loud and massive.
He's talking about when I orgasm.
Thank you for translating.
Yeah.
It may not be a lot and quickly, but it's a huge one at the end.
It's pretty intense and very, very intense in me. So I was terrified that I wouldn't be able to get off, or if this guy is trying, he's the only one James is the only one who's ever gotten me off. So I'm I don't know if it'll work. And so mostly it was more about performance, I think, on both ends, not really concerned about even too many of the feelings part. Cause I think we both went into it super prepared we knew what was going to happen. Yeah. And they were both married, so they were already attached to each other. So we didn't have to worry about that aspect.
They were stable.
Right.
We knew we were stable, so we didn't have to worry about, are we going to come in and ruin things for someone else?
Right. We're not home wreckers, they're in a stable, they do this. This is, they're experienced. And they were great. I will say they were great too, because they even said at one point, if you guys at any point, just if this is too much, or, we don't want to be pushy, they kept saying, we don't want to be pushy, just go at your comfortability. And
we went.
So afterwards, how did you both feel about it?
So there's maybe a 25-minute drive back home, and just a couple minutes of quiet just to process, holy shit, this just happened.
We just fucked other people. But it was, it was great. It was great. I don't think we had any, anything come up.
No.
Even I did have difficulty getting there, but he just jumped right in and took care of the situation. So all around, it was a really great experience. It was great. So.
Yeah. And then that led us, it started a conversation. Okay, we've done this. So
now what?
This is something we can do.
Yeah. We
don't have to be worried about, this is going to be the one thing that ends us.
Right. We can do this.
We can do this. We both enjoyed it. We both had fun. Let's jump on a couple websites and maybe start looking for a couple.
So
and this was thinking about timeline. This was last summer, right?
This would have been the end of summer.
Okay. Yeah. Of 2019. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So we jumped on some sites and we met another couple.
Yep.
And
we chatted and, it was hitting off pretty good.
Like, it felt like we clicked with them so good. And now, like, looking back, I don't know if I just, like, both of us just kind of jumped into it. Like, yeah, we so got, like, we are so in our heads. We're so awesome at this. Like, they're great for us.
Yeah. We had fun. We've had some fun with them.
Yeah, we did. But I just, so a couple months in, it just started to seem like really, really serious because we told them that we're not necessarily like, we wouldn't label as swingers necessarily. We would kind of stick with more of a non-monogamous label, maybe leaning poly. But swinger to us seems casual. And I know it's different for everybody. Like, I know everyone defines it differently. But for us, it felt a little more casual. And we would like to have more of like a friends with benefits or like at least some sort of connection or friendship with the person or people. So I think we kind of went into it with that mentality. And so we were explaining that with them and they're like, oh yeah, we're poly. That's what we are. We've been wondering all this time. We're poly. And then it was just like, oh, we should get tattoos together and we should like, we should get rings. And we're like, oh, that's cute.
Whoa. Okay.
And we love our tattoos. Mind you, we have full sleeves and everything, but
I don't need an excuse to get a tattoo.
So it was cute and we loved the sentiment, but just as we kept going longer, we're like, we're just not clicking.
Yeah.
We're compatible, but we're not like, there's no chemistry. Like, we're not chemistry. I meant it the other way. We have chemistry, but we're not compatible, if that makes sense. So like we get together and yeah, we have fun, but just personally, like, and we don't want to necessarily jump on the political train, but I'm just going to say like, we had conflicting views. And so it just wasn't working.
Yeah.
It was like, breaks.
Yeah.
And it sounds like they wanted to jump right into like almost a quad dynamic.
Right. Yeah. Which, I mean, we're not
we never like played together as a group. It was always, very segmented.
Same room, but like,
paired off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Paired off.
I really enjoy a little bit of.
Yeah. If we're going to be together, we kind of like the idea of doing more group play.
Yeah.
Which we actually haven't done yet.
I know.
We have a date scheduled though, so we're excited.
Cool.
So that kind of has been, I hate using the word fizzling. It's been kind of, fizzling out a little bit.
Like swinging in general, that type of
No, with that couple.
Oh, with that couple. Okay.
So our friends J and V are saying, hey, it's V's birthday. We're planning on, going out, a whole group of us, like 12 of us, you should come out with us. And every time it seems we hang out with them, scotch is drank and we end up swapping.
So where her birthday was an hour away and they had stayed the whole weekend in a hotel. And this was just like, by the way, 2 weekends ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So recent.
Yeah. So they were just like, okay, you two are coming back to our hotel. And so it was just kind of like, okay, we're in. That sounds like fun.
Yeah. So
you've continued exploring with the I guess couple that got you into the more like traditional swinging.
Yeah.
And you're open to other dynamics as you move forward, but you're still working out what works best for you.
Yeah.
Try anything twice.
That's my
thing. Kind of like the motto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the first time you're just like, there's a lot of fear or there's a lot of like nerves and apprehensions. The second time I feel like you go into something with a little more clarity.
Right.
So
I guess that brings us
to our dates from this past weekend.
Oh.
So we decided sometime over the last, like it's been the course of 4 weeks that we decided, maybe what do you think about the idea of separate dating? Because I do have a little bit more difficult time, I think, getting off. I wonder if I would do better not worrying about like, So what I have found, and I actually appreciate this about the men that have been with me, but what I've found is the men seem to pay attention to their wives.
Which is a good thing too.
It is.
But yes.
I totally
get you. Yeah.
cute, and I love that. But I take a little more effort sometimes. And so I'm just like, what do you think of this idea?
A little more focus.
A little focus. Anyway.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And
it's totally fair, by the way, to explore what might work for you.
Yeah, exactly. So
we've been talking about it and opening up, the conversation. And I said, I met this person. Actually, we both met her.
We both met her at Jay. Jay had a house party back in December, and she was there.
Yeah.
And
so we both met her, and I was like, okay.
So if you gave me the blessing, she would be...
I didn't use those words, but...
He said, if you give me the blessing. It was really cute. And I was like, you know what? Yes. And so that was probably 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Like 3 weeks ago.
It was like right at the beginning of the first year. And so we were like, okay. So he started talking to her. Well,
just light conversation.
Well, hold right before though, I had already said that. So I had already set up a coffee date with her because we met her at this house party, and I wanted to kind of get to know her more because we had made like eye connection. Like there was another individual there that was kind of being weird. And so her and I had made eye connection. So I had reached out to her and said, hey, you want to get together for coffee? And she's like, yeah, that'd be great. So we had this coffee date set up. Then James says, so I'm kind of interested in this one person we met at the house party. I'm like, okay, I have coffee set up with her. How do you feel about that? I will cancel coffee if you would like. He's like, no, go ahead. You go right ahead and vet for me. Like, I'm doing the work for you.
No, we're not doing the work. You're just vetting.
And I think there was a certain amount of like also comfort in that too, like kind of giving me like, I don't know, just some comfort there.
Oh yeah, because I get that. I mean, you get to meet her and you get kind of comfortable who she is, and it makes you more comfortable when he goes out with her.
Exactly. So it was great. We had a great coffee, and then I did bring up that because he hadn't asked her out yet. It was just a conversation between the two of us that I would be okay with it if he did want to. So he hadn't asked her out. So I had asked him. I said, would you be okay if it came up naturally in conversation that I'd let her know that you are interested? And he's like, sure, whatever's game, because he's a Pisces. So whatever.
I'll just go with the flow.
So I had told her during coffee that, that James was interested in her, and would she, we don't want it to be weird, but we just want her to know. So there's a possibility that he might contact her. Just as a heads up. And she's like, okay. And so as we were leaving, and she's like, I'm totally good with that. Like, and we talked a little bit about her experience. She's also kind of new in the lifestyle. And so it was like, okay, this, I'm good. I felt good about it. And at the end, I was like, okay, we'll see you. And she goes, well, send James a kiss from me. And I was like, oh yeah, this is going to work. This is going to work.
I'm awful at connecting via messenger and text and type. That's not my favorite form of communication. So I try really hard, and then just like, oh, I hate typing. I hate texting.
And he's like, I just don't know what to say to her. And I'm like, just do this. Da, 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 da. And he's like, okay.
While this is going on, Hazel, was like, well,
what are my next steps?
What's her next step?
What am I going to do? And he's like, James was like, why don't you just sign up for just like go on some adult sites that we'd been on and just
different dating app, alternative dating apps.
So,
and you found somebody.
Yeah, I found somebody, and
or a couple people.
A couple of people had reached out, and I was talking to them. And
so I had set up a date. It would have been a week ago, Sunday, like the week prior.
So he's like,
and all of a sudden she's like, so I'm going to be downstate and this person is kind of on the way. And would it be cool if I met up with them?
I had a conference to go to, can I just have dinner?
Sure. Yes. On your way up, And then I had to put in restrictions because
we don't know this person like at all, and just
like,
my safety,
right,
and
check in, maybe.
We went to a place that was like an hour away from where he lived too, but it was on my way of traveling, and so I knew he couldn't take me back to his place to kill me if I was at least an hour away. So
that is the rule.
It might have been a little easier. Or right. I should say a little harder.
Right, exactly.
And then, so she had that set up. I'm like, oh, okay. I have a date set up. She has a date set up. And all of a sudden, boom, she gets another date set up. And I'm like, two dates?
So I was like, so you're going out on Sunday. How do you feel about me going out at the same time as you? I'm like, I think that would be nice to not like be kind of like, like you doing, going out, but him going out with her there was a little more intention behind, like they're going to do things, I've
straight up told Hazel that I want to sleep with this person.
So I knew that
that is not the end destination, but it is
part of the journey.
Yeah. I'm eventually going to sleep with this person. I'm not saying it's going to be this weekend or,
right.
But it is in my view.
Yeah. So it's on his agenda. So he's like, yes. He's like, yes, you go ahead, set up a second date. I'm like, I just want to make sure there's going to be no issue with 2 dates. And he's like, it's fine because it's a little bit different because you're not likely going to do much of anything. So
Hazel, in a span of like a week, you had 2 dates, and James, you had 1, and one of them was on the same night.
Yeah. But so this is like, it actually worked out. So I was coming back from my conference, or the night before I was supposed to come back. The guy reached out to me and canceled. Okay. So yeah, so I didn't end up having, and I actually felt better about that anyway, because I was feeling kind of like icky about it a little bit. I mean, it was just dinner, but I just was kind of like, it didn't seem, I don't know, fair.
If it didn't feel right, then that was probably a good call.
Yeah. So it worked out. So yeah, so we had our first dates on Sunday.
We got to worry, and we're in
we're recording this on a Tuesday, so it's been 48 hours.
Yes.
Yeah. And it has been a big 48 hours.
It has. So where do we even start with this?
So we already had it set up, where we would go. We actually ended up going out in the same town, which is a little ways away from, where we live. Different restaurants in different parts of town because it was almost across the street. Thank God the other restaurant was closed.
Yeah, we changed our plans so that they were on separate ends of the town. So I dropped him off and was like, have a good date, honey.
I figured she has the car. If anything happens,
I can escape, we thought through.
You can,
I can leave and do what,
whatever.
Right. So we had talked through a lot of, and as far as what we wanted to do is boundaries or agreements, we're both, I think, at the point where really there's nothing off limits. We respect each other and trust each other. I know he wants to have, sex with her, and that kind of turns me on. Not gonna lie. But
we had a lot of conversation, especially the night before.
Yeah.
Of this would be okay. I could see this. That would be very hot if you did this.
Right. And then we finally boiled it down to the 2 simple agreements. No sex on the first date and not going back to their apartments. So that was it. Everything else was fine. So,
and we mean just actual
intercourse sex.
Thanks for clarifying.
P and the V is how it's actually how we say it. So no P and the V.
So Hazel drops me off at the bar where I'm meeting, and of course I'm always early because it's who I am. I have to be early, and I get myself a double Jameson on the rocks, and I'm sitting there waiting, looking at my watch. So eventually she shows up, and we chat and talk, and basically, what's your story? How'd you get into the lifestyle, and, all the meat and potatoes. And it was really good conversation.
Such good conversation that they moved it to a vehicle.
After I paid.
He paid, which was agreed upon by us. Like, we knew that there was a chance I would take on half my bill if that happened, and he was to pay for the full bill.
I haven't been on a first date in well over a decade.
Yeah. So I was like, you just go ahead and pay for like the bill, like be the gentleman. That's totally fine with me. Like, you know, our finances are shared. So we just wanted to make sure to talk through that stuff. So
we pay, and, you know, we're doing the whole giving each other the eyes, you know, and at some point during the night I said, so what do you drive? Because I had no clue what kind of vehicle she drove or anything. She drives a little small hatchback or mid-sized hatchback.
It's a vibe.
It's a vibe. Or a vibrator, she calls it.
Hey, we have friends that with a vibe that call it the same thing.
Yep.
I guess apparently it's what you do.
Okay. What you do?
So, of course, at this point, I don't have a car, so she's driving. So I'm like, all right, well, I haven't done this in a really long time. Like, where do we go?
I'm like, oh my God, it's like high school.
do we park in the Walmarts? And she said, oh, I have an idea. So she's driving. We end up in this.
Did you tell her that you weren't supposed to go back to the apartment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had told her the rule. Okay.
Before we were into, you know, doing things, I said, you know, first date, not really appropriate to go back to your apartment, and, you know, actual P in the V is.
Did you say P in the V?
I said P in the V.
Oh my God. That's
and,
so funny.
You know, and also, you know, in the conversation we had the, how do you go about getting checked, and, you know, safety, and, you know, we definitely touched on that realm too.
Yeah.
Because I feel that's important to just approach it at least. And then we went to, you know, where like soccer fields or some
high school,
like that.
You know,
it was totally high school all over again. Yeah. And it was a really good 40 minutes.
Not that you were counting.
Yeah, not that you were counting.
Not that he was counting.
I wasn't counting that, but yeah, it was.
Okay, so that sounds like an amazing night. So Hazel, how did yours go?
It bombed.
Oh, yes, it did.
It was like so bomb. It was the minute I walked up to him, like now looking back, I realized I had that moment where I was like, nope. But I think part of me was like, no, we have this date set up. Like, we're supposed to do things to like, nope, I give it a shot. So we go into the place, and, you know, it's just, he's so nice. Like, so nice that he can't even speak up for himself and say how many people at a table, like I had to do it. And it was just, yeah. And we went to the table, and just like he was talking, but just not engaging conversation. It was more just like, not even storytelling that, like, I don't know. It was just very.
From what you told me, it was, this is what I do, and this is everything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and I get that he could have been like nervous, and sometimes I can come off a little intimidating. And so, you know, I'm a strong gal,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm pretty, you know, I can come off a little intimidating. And so I'm like, okay, well, maybe he's just nervous. So I tried to like make sure I was being soft and flirty and like, you know, I'm like, okay. And I was not feeling anything from him. Like everything, you know, we had exchanged some pictures. I'm not one to get like terribly explicit or anything, but I mean, there were some pictures sent and stuff, and just some of his reaction, I was like, okay, this is gonna work. Like, okay.
You were looking damn fine too.
Aww.
Like, I don't know.
It just wasn't a match.
It wasn't a match. So, I mean, he didn't even like, I don't know. When we left, I like literally stood there, like trying to like standing like, this is a perfect opportunity for you to make a move. nothing. So I'm like, okay. So
I didn't get the text until later because I texted saying, we're heading to the car. Yeah. She responded. I didn't get the response, but she responded. What did you say? Like, basically,
not going to happen for me.
Good. Not going to happen for me.
Right. Like, good, glad you're going to the car. And I was like, not going to happen for me. And he didn't get it until after he went, which is fine. That's totally fine. But so anyway, I left my date and they were still busy. And so I had to start processing what I was feeling. So I went to a local bar and just kind of sat by myself, and I just jumped on and started talking to another person that I had been sort of talking to. And I was like, I'll just fill my time with just next.
Just pure frustration, explaining to this person your events and how pissed off you are.
Yeah, I just totally vented to him, but it was fine. He was great. Yeah, so then James gets done and texts me and says, hey, where can I be dropped off? And I was like, I told him where I was. And so she dropped him off and I met him at the car, and he's like, first, are you okay? And I was like, no, I'm not okay.
No, I'm not okay. I don't want to talk about it.
Oh.
I was just really feeling like, ouch. It was a total kick to my ego because I was feeling good. I thought I looked really hot.
You did.
He said I did. And
you did.
I was like, how could you not show attraction, And so I was just like, or how could I not have chemistry? I was just saying this to James, there's never, even our friends, just I feel energy between people, and I feel like there was, or some sort of level of chemistry or energy, nothing from this guy. So I was just really feeling, I was starting to feel fucked up in the head. So
the drive home at about 35 minutes,
I said, I want to know everything.
And I took that to mean, oh, you're excited. I had a good time. This is everything.
And I was, because
we're very excited and very.
Yeah, I was really excited that he had a good time. I really wanted him to have a good time. Neither of us have a lot of experience with other people. So I so wanted him to just, and he did. And I was happy that he did. But then I was also getting fucked up in the head that we were both supposed to. What is it about me that had me not getting there? What was, I started taking it on as something's wrong with me, or, why isn't this working out? And because the one guy on Thursday canceled, remember that?
Yeah.
And now this. So I'm like, okay. So I started taking it on, and then then it went to a whole new level where I was pissed off at myself for being upset, because I have done a lot of preparation. We've done a lot of talking. Why am I getting...
But none of this came out night of.
No. Oh, no. This is stuff that I'm thinking about.
We came home and...
Oh, yeah. We came home and...
You got yours.
Oh, he definitely... Yes, I'm glad you rewinded to there, because he definitely made it up to me.
I've heard he's good.
Listen, it is uncommon for me to have... I can do one for sure and maybe have 2 orgasms if he works for it. I had 4. So that for me...
I had 2, and that's...
But it was insane. It was so good. So I feel like part of the release started there, part of the emotional release. But then as I processed it all day, Monday, it kind of came to a head for me last night. And I lost it. I was very emotional. I was crying. I was upset. Not upset that he did nothing wrong. I wasn't upset that he did things that he did, because we're supposed to, and we're going to, and he's going to have sex with her. There was nothing wrong with that, but I was just really I don't know, I was just in a fucked up place about it. But
you were pissed off at yourself for feeling the way that
I ended up feeling, because I was how can I feel like this when I'm okay with it? Right. So anyway, yeah, so I let out a lot of emotion. He was great. He just listened, and he was there. And also after my date on Sunday sucked. He said, you know what, go back on the sites, or, you know, if you want to look at if there's something different.
Get back out there, Tiger. You can do it.
So I had yesterday morning downloaded OkCupid and had just logged into there and started talking to a couple of people.
In 30 minutes, you had 3 messages. By this morning or early afternoon, you had I stopped counting.
Yeah, I had
You linked it to my email.
Yeah, it was linked to his email on accident, which whatever, I don't care. We obviously were open, but
sweet. All these messages.
Not for me.
So you're navigating it. You're figuring it out.
So a really cool thing though happened was because remember I had coffee with Cleo before, and so before they were together. So I just said to James, I want to reach out to her, but I don't want it to be weird for you. But are you cool with that? And he's like, absolutely. Like this is what we're about. We're about communication. And so I was like, okay. So I reached out and just told her, I just want you to know that I'm having some big feels, but I'm mostly just mad at myself for having these feelings because I'm really, really happy for you guys. And I'm really excited about this adventure that we're going on. And, I'm excited to do this thing, whatever we're doing, whatever but I was just having feelings. And she's, said, thank you so much for reaching out. I'm all about open communication and over communicating. And so it just feels really good. I feel like we're in a much better place, not that we were in a bad place, but we're in
well, you're processing it. Yeah.
Right. We're back to a common ground again. We're okay, now I have a couple of guys who have asked me out already. And I'm okay.
And for me, the biggest thing that I was upset about is that Hazel didn't have the amazing time that she deserved.
Aww.
So I get a great time and she didn't. I'm I can't take it back. I can't undo anything.
Yeah.
But I mean, it just, so the part that I was upset about was that she didn't have the time that she wanted. So I'm yeah, get out there, push it.
Yeah.
Because I want Hazel to have a good time, and I want Hazel to, find
whatever I'm looking for, which we're still figuring out.
A special something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that one guy? He said, I could be your fuckboy. I'm
yeah. You said
no. I was swipe left.
That's my line.
Did you?
You're so smooth.
On him?
What's that?
So you're so smooth.
Yeah. So I mean, we've covered a lot of ground in the last hour, and honestly, you two have covered just about every dynamic you could think of for the most part.
You honestly answer my questions before I get to ask them too. So,
so I mean, right. So you kind of started from an unethical place by cheating and being together. You did a little bit of the poly thing. You did a little bit of the BDSM thing. You've done a little bit of the traditional, so to speak, swinging thing. You've now done some separate dating and swinging. And it sounds like it's just, you're on this constant,
they haven't done group play. Remember that's
right?
That's coming up.
That's a bucket list.
Yeah.
we have a date set up, so we're excited. They're fun.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, and so I mean, maybe just kind of to wrap it all up, maybe just some one or two key takeaways that either of you have had, or impacts that you've seen on your relationship over the year or over the years, that you sort of, I mean, just reflecting on it a little bit, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Right. So for me, the biggest thing that I've gotten out of it is we're a team. And as a team, we both want to succeed. And, I'm not afraid to say anything to communicate. You have to be able to communicate and be open, and, even if it's
hard, the hard stuff,
or even if it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's still what's going on. And it's not necessarily saying, I need this to change. It's more of saying, hold on, this is what's going on for me. And I want your help looking at it from a different point of view.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if it's not right, it can be looked at, but most of the time it's not that it's wrong. It's that it just needs to be approached from a different angle.
Yeah. And I think, like anytime there's any sort of like wibbles, I think that's what more than two labels the jealousy feelings, wibbles or jealousy or whatever you want to call it. I hate using jealousy, and I know it's just because it's got such a negative connotation, but I think you can use that feeling to really look inward. So what's really going on for me? Because their thing was fine. Like there's nothing. So what's going on for me? And it's the insecurities. It's the kick to my ego. It's the, the worthiness feeling, so that's what's going on for me. It's not that I'm even jealous of it. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, it's just what's going on for me and how can I move past it? So I think through the whole years, all of the years, it's just a matter of both of us expressing that to each other and just being really, really vulnerable to a point where I think that's like the best thing about non-monogamous relationships is you talk about shit that monogamous people never talk about. They never have to. And so that for us is like, we talk about that shit and that's what's going to make our marriage last. And the fact that we're like on this adventure together, if he falls in love with, Cleo or any woman in the future, or man, I don't know. Yeah, nah. But anyway, I'm young, he says. So be it, we'll have a conversation, or maybe I do, maybe I fall in love with someone else, but then it's a matter of having that conversation of, but I love you and we're doing this together, but we can also love other people too, if it gets to that point. But it's just that in communication, like I feel like is so like, oh, I have communication. It's so true to the most vulnerable level, like the most intimate, deep level.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
I have one quick question that we usually ask people, and I'm just curious. And how out in your community and your families have you been with this journey?
Yeah, I came out to my family as being bi shortly after my divorce. So I came out to them as far as that goes. And then when we started in our triad relationship, it came to a point where it became really obvious we need to tell our family because she was this random new person who was coming over a lot. And so his whole his mom and sister know, my brother knows, both my parents know, my close friends all know that we're non-monogamous, basically.
Most of my co-workers know. Like, it's not something I necessarily hide.
But we don't necessarily broadcast it like, hey, but we're not afraid. Like, we're very stable in our marriage.
If someone wants to broach a conversation with me, I'll be open and honest about it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to force it down people's throat. But if they say, so we saw Hazel out on a date or Hazel out with a guy, I'm open to having a conversation about that.
Yeah.
Because small town life, and if it gets out there, but I'm going to be more vulnerable and more intimate in a conversation. It's going to make them uncomfortable.
Right. Because it's not a matter of like stirring the pot. He's going to be really like, this is what's going on. This is
open and honest.
Yeah.
And if someone has a problem with that, all right, you enjoy your life. I'm going to enjoy mine.
Right?
Yeah.
It's so funny because all the time on like Facebook, like we share pretty openly on Facebook about like, oh, we're having a shit day or, oh, we're having a great day. And people just like really engage with us. They just always say like marriage goals. And I'm like, haha, if you only knew. Like there's so much more that you don't know about because, we don't post about it on Facebook, but I always think that that's kind of funny.
Marriage goals.
Yeah, well, and I mean, on your side, Hazel, if anybody ever questions it, you can just tell them how good he is in bed.
Right. I would. And I literally I would say he really knows how. Please, would you like a chance? Like, get in line.
It's exactly my point. And I think, that's really the summary of tonight's interview. That's why we brought you on, really. So,
right. I figured. No.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thank you both really for sharing everything. It's been awesome. It's really fun hearing the entire sort of
journey,
the full journey, right? And it's been.
Can I add one quick thing?
Absolutely.
This is kind of like, I know this is probably getting long, but this is kind of a really cool side piece that we also recently decided to tell our oldest that we're polyamorous, and that, you know, they already know that I'm bisexual. Like, that's something that I shared with them about a year ago, not too long ago. So coming out to our oldest, it felt really good, because it was like teaching him that you don't have to do things the way.
He's at that very interesting age where, you know, you kind of like people, and then you kind of like one person more, and then it's kind of like, wait a second,
I like this person.
I like that person more too.
Yeah.
So, you know, we just want him to be aware of, it doesn't have to be this one way.
There's more than one way to skin a cat.
There's more than one way to love. Like,
right.
You don't have to.
Maybe that's a little better way to say it.
I don't really. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
You don't have to, you know, feel bad because of your feelings. You don't have to put yourself down because, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. You can be interested in multiple people.
Yeah.
And as long as it's, you're being honest and open.
Yeah. And that's exactly it, you know, and I made sure to reiterate that. So then he did question, though. He was like, so is that what you're doing with, you know, and he named the two people. And I was like, I'm not going to go into detail about my personal life, but you're 15. But I think he felt really good knowing it. And, you know, I just also think that it gave us an opportunity to open the door to conversations. So, you know, we've had the sex talk, and I'm very open about that. But just, I think that it created a closeness that he's going to feel really okay with talking to us about.
Yeah. Well, that's your hope, right? That he can come to you.
Right.
Yeah.
He's probably going to come to me and go, hold on, wait, let's get your mom. I'm bad with words.
Yeah. So.
Awesome. Well, no, thank you for sharing that. And it's not a problem that it went a couple of minutes extra, because I think that's fantastic to hear.
That was a very good point to share.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, maybe with that, we will let you get some sleep. It's quite a bit later on your end of the country than ours.
I know. So, here I was yawning, and I'm like, it's a lot earlier here.
So we can let you do that. And thank you again. And we will, be in touch, right?
Okay, awesome. Yes.
Maybe we'll have to revisit this again.
Yes. Let you know how the separate dating life is going, or what's the next thing we do.
Yeah, We'll bring you on for a follow-up in maybe like a year and see where it's at.
Cool. That sounds awesome.
Definitely.
All right. Well, have a wonderful night, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
And we're back. Thank you so much for Hazel and James for reaching out to us and coming on the show, sharing their story. We're really excited to hear where they go and hear more of their story. And when we check back in with them sometime soon.
Yeah, I think based on the trajectory, it's gonna get wild and crazy.
Yeah.
Well, it's already been a little crazy. Anyway, thank you again, as Emma said. We did want to mention one last thing before we let you go. If you maybe are interested in exploring non-monogamy and you're concerned about your sexual health and safety, we have a bunch of resources on our resources page.
Which all of you should be, by the way.
You should be concerned about these things, and you should be taking it seriously, because it is a serious matter. But on our resources page, you can find information on our favorite places to get tested. Some of them are free, but not quite as widely available. But the easiest and most convenient that we found is stdcheck.com. It's super fast, super easy, and one of the more affordable options we've ever used. And if you use the links in the show notes, you can save $10 and support your favorite podcasters, Emma and me.
Yes.
And we really appreciate it, and we hope you check that out and let us know if you do and how it works for you.
Please, that would be great. We love the service, and please check it out. Finally, this coming Friday, we have episode 6 of our Focus Friday series. We've been doing this show, as you probably noticed, every Friday for this will be 6 weeks. And this episode is going to be all about shame. And we talk with someone, and it's an amazing conversation. I don't want to give it away.
A person named AJ?
No, it's an inside joke. You're not supposed to do inside jokes.
I can share my inside jokes if I want. This is the outro. Nobody is listening anymore.
Yes, people have written us and said they still listen. Anyway, stay tuned. Friday, check it out. If you want to go and download all 10 of the Focus Friday series all right now, please go to our website under the courses tab and you can do it right there.
And that website is normalizingnonmonogamy.com.
And then next Wednesday,
we have an interview
with Kat.
Look at that handoff. It was like boom, 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 ping pong style.
And then you call it out. We just did it good without.
Yeah, I know, but then I wanted people to appreciate it.
Anyway, stay tuned Friday and next Wednesday. We'll see you then. Thanks for listening.